I thought I had a pretty normal childhood. Then I got older and I kind of realized not so much. This is the Ball Podcast with your good friend Rocco the Comic in the Basamento. So growing up, I thought everything I did normal. Everything I experienced normal. Then I started meeting more people, and the more people I met, the more my horizons, is that even, horizon's a word, okay, yeah. I broadened my horizons. Why the hell did that sound wrong? I started to realize I was living in this bubble that was weird to everybody else but us. Apparently, and this is what I'm saying, apparently, you're not supposed to, you know, we weren't allowed to have pets. All right. I don't think I had any. The only family that had pets growing up were the family that married like an American person. None of the strict, normal Italian, like not normal, we're not normal. None of the strict Italian people had pets. We didn't do this stuff. All right. What we did was we gave trauma to the kids. All right, because I have a picture somewhere of my sister with a beautiful baby goat. She's probably like maybe 1 or 2 years old. She's riding the goat. You know, everyone's happy, everyone's laughing. They ate that goat for Easter. Right? There's a bunch of Italian kids out there that have a picture with their meal when it was alive. Right? Everyone has a picture with the bunny rabbit that they ate before it was done. That's why we didn't have pets. I thought this was normal. I thought that everyone experienced this, but no, apparently not. All right. My grandfather was a butcher. All right. And he wasn't like, I remember one time, and I don't know why, but he was butchering a bunch of goats at someone's basement. So I went to go see what he was doing, and there was like 6 dead goats just lying on a table. Right? And my grandfather's like, oh, yeah. He cut the tip of the tail of the goat where it has a little bit of hair on it. Right? And he puts it over here. And he goes, oh, look, Caro. Well, he says this in Italian. He says, look at his beard. And that wasn't too bad. That was okay, right? He then takes the lungs of the goat. The lungs. Fully intact lungs. And starts blowing into the is that what it's called? The esophagus? Is that still this is not a medical podcast, so I don't know. I'm not Googling anything before I say it. He blows down the esophagus and the lungs start to inflate and deflate. Inflate and then deflate. I'm like 7 years old. This is what I'm looking at. So yeah, we didn't have pets. I thought this was normal. I thought, animals were for eating, dogs were for farms. If I wanted to see a dog, I could go see someone else's dog, but the dog's gonna bite you, don't go near it. I'm interested to see everyone's picture with the goat that they ate for Easter with them playing with it. Because we all have one. We all have one. Another thing. So, I grew up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. It was it was very immigrant. It was like an immigrant neighborhood, right? There was rarely I could count the true, like, fully American people in on one hand, because everyone was either Italian, Russian, Chinese, or Mexicans, right? There was not really anyone who didn't have an accent. So growing up, I thought everyone's grandmother or grandfather didn't speak English. I thought if you had a grandmother or a grandfather, automatically they didn't speak English. All right, because I've never met a grandmother or grandfather that spoke English. Not once. Up until like I was like maybe in fourth or fifth grade, and then someone's like, "Oh, that's my grandmother," and the grandmother said hi to me and spoke English. And I was like, "They make those? They make grandparents that speak English?" I thought everyone was an immigrant because that's all I was raised around. Immigrants. You know, it and to be honest, I'm just going to add one point into this. I personally thought that all grandmothers, all nonnas didn't wear pants. Okay? Because I I'm 39 years old. My nonna died in 2020. All right? So 5 years, 6, don't sound 6 years ago. In my entire life, I saw my nonna wear pants once. And it was like seeing the Titanic sink or something. It was, nonna always wore house dresses. She had the house dress for inside the house and a house dress for when she went out. Then when my nonna died, she just had a black house dress. That was it. All right? House dress. And every nonna I saw wore house dresses. House dresses, a shirt, skirt, no one wore pants. And then when I started seeing nonnas wear pants, I was like, what is this? You're allowed to wear pants? I thought nonnas only wore house dresses. My nonno wore a suit every day. Every day he wore a suit. Okay? Sometimes he wouldn't have the tie on. He would just have the button down, the suspenders, the dress pants, right? And then he always had dress shoes. In the summer, if it got too hot, he'd have the guinea tee, suit pants, suspenders. Nonno never wore shorts. Nonno, I never saw my nonno's feet because he always had socks with shoes on. Okay? Now come to think about it, maybe that's where my kids get it. Because my kids always want to wear socks. They think like seeing, I don't know. But I digress. But yeah, it's crazy when you grow up and you don't think things are crazy, these things are normal, and all the things are outside. Nothing. I didn't know that there was a world out there that actually gave like gifts for weddings, for sweet 16s, for any party that wasn't in the house. I thought that automatically you gave cash. Unless it was a bridal shower. Bridal shower and baby showers were the only differences where cash was not given at a hall. Right? Those two things. That's what I thought. And then, I get older. Decide to go against the grain. And I married an American girl. And this is how late I realized that this happens. Because I was about to get married. And my wife had to explain to people that the bridal shower is where you give the physical gifts. The wedding, cash. You don't give anything else. Don't show up to an Italian wedding with like a pot or something. Because you're going to look like a buffoon. Everyone's going to talk about you. Right? And that's it. Cash. Cash only at parties. We do not give physical gifts. We do not wrap things in wrapping paper. I thought that was how it was. That was a written rule in all of society. No, that was our thing. I grew up in this little bubble, which you think it's a little bubble that you grow up in, right? And then you start talking to different people who grew up in their little bubble that was the exact same thing. So we were a bubble within a bubble within a bubble, and then it bursts and we realize, hey, there's other people in the world. It's like finding out aliens are real, right? Because these people I saw on TV, I thought they were like aliens, because watching Full House and seeing him not actually hit the kids, aliens. Now this one's it's a little bit of a double edge, right? Halloween. Again, I grew up in Bensonhurst. We couldn't really trick or treat because my parents got mad if I were to ring anyone's doorbell, even on Halloween. I think I've never physically rang someone else's doorbell on Halloween, right? We always had to find a group and let those kids ring the bell and then hopefully get in on that action. But Bensonhurst, no one answered the door. No one. My wife talks to me. She's like, "Oh, how was Halloween growing up for you? You got all this candy?" And it's like, "No, I grew up in Brooklyn, Bensonhurst. No one answered the door. Okay, I didn't get any candy. All right. My mother, again, this is the last episode. Most paranoid person you could imagine. If you were over 12, or you were just like a big 10-year-old, my mother would not open the door for you if you rang the bell. Okay? Because she would say, that person looks older, they're going to egg me if I open the door. She created a whole thing in her head that this person is going to ring the bell and traumatize her so she wouldn't. So we always had extra candy left over. Every Halloween, because my mother would find reasons not to answer the door. She didn't like the mask. They only had a mask on. They had regular clothes on. They looked too old to be trick-or-treating. My mom was freaking vetting people left and right on Halloween. Left and right, vetting everyone. You had to really earn the candy for my mom to give it to you. So my father started telling my mother on every Halloween, you know what? Just buy the candy I like. All right? Because if you're not going to give any and we're going to have all this left over, you might as well give me something I like. Let me eat the candy after. I never had like a cool Halloween costume. One, because my parents were going to waste no money on a Halloween costume. I think in my lifetime, I had 3 Halloween costumes. 3. One, I was husky. All right? Big and tall wasn't popular back then, so they didn't really have costumes for husky kids. So all the costumes I had to be like draped over me so it would fit. So 3 costumes. I had one Hulk Hogan costume from when I was like maybe 7. I had a picture of it. It was that mask that would cut your sides of your face because of the plastic with the string in the back, and then the plastic shirt that said Hulk Hogan on it, and like the plastic pants. I had that. And again, didn't go trick-or-treating, so I don't know why I had that costume. Second costume I remember was I was a surgeon, right? Again, but see, Hulk Hogan, I was like 6. I wasn't really husky yet. I was like normal kid size. It wasn't until they started feeding me too much that panza crescio, and I couldn't fit in Halloween costumes. So I was a surgeon. And the reason I was a surgeon is because that was just a gown. Panza you could hide. Alright? So I was a surgeon, and this had to be the flimsiest costume, because it had to be the cheapest one. I think my mom probably got it at the 99-cent store. That was my costume. And then, when Scream came out, for the next, until I stopped dressing up for Halloween, I was the guy from Scream. That mask and that cape had to last the rest of my life. I had the cheapest Halloween costumes because my parents refused to buy me any type of real Halloween costume. But, I had the sickest San Giuseppe outfit that you could imagine. Silk, shiny, multiple pieces. Nonna made it from scratch. I was the best San Giuseppe you could ever imagine. Or Sant'Antonio, I don't know. They're the same thing, you change the color of the other piece. They both wore brown. One was green, one was blue. But silk, guys. Silk. Shiny. I had the sickest San Giuseppe costume you could imagine to wear at church for All Saints Day. Okay? But I could not, for the life of me, wear a normal Halloween costume like a regular kid. Right? Clothing was always a thing because all right. Let me this is not serious. Not serious at all. But this is a discussion. When you marry someone who's not Italian like you, or it not even doesn't have to be Italian, just has to be a non-immigrant raised person. So like I'm first generation in this country. My wife is like 19th generation in this country. So we grew up completely different, and we have to have these conversations. Like growing up for me, every holiday was about church, except Thanksgiving, which we really didn't care about. Easter, the whole week, we were at church. I spent more time in St. Dominic's than I did at home the week of Easter. That Thursday night mass that lasted 17 hours, where they turned the lights off, they turned the lights on, you had to light the candle, no brush out the candle, and you had to save the candle. Save the candle for 17 years, they sit in the drawer, in your fridge. That was Easter for me. Christmas, misa, church, every 2 seconds, church. My wife had to have fun on these things. Easter was about eggs, the bunny, egg hunts. She goes, you never had an egg hunt? No, we weren't allowed to do anything like that. Misa, chiesa. That's all we did on Easter. Christmas, you think we were going to take pictures with Santa? We were at church, praying, constantly. All right? And then this is the conversation we have. My wife would go, what did Santa bring you when you were a kid? I said, Santa would bring me one thing. Literally, one thing. I'd wake up on Christmas morning. The one thing I wanted would be under the tree. Not wrapped. Like UPS just dropped it off. It'd just be there in the living room. That's it. No wrapping paper, nothing. Questo, oh grazie. You wanted that, that's what you got. My wife said, I have a video of my wife's Christmas when she was a kid. Hundreds of wrapped gifts. It's like FAO Schwartz threw up in the living room for her. I was like, I didn't get anything. I got one thing that I asked for, right? One thing, that's all. I got Azivich and Zena would give me a shirt that never fit me. If I was a large, she got me a small. When I became a 2X, she would get me a medium. As I grew up, the shirts got smaller. She got all like a plethora of gifts from everybody. On Easter, she still got gifts. Oh, on Easter, I would usually get a bike. I would get this. I would get that. I got a chocolate egg. That was it. I saw the baskets that they would sell, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I would beg. I'd beg my mom. I'd say, Ma, can I just please get one of these baskets? Please. For the love, please let me just get one. She's not going to waste money on a basket. What, so I can waste this? It's garbage. That's garbage. One time I think I finagled my Tzia, because my Tzia Franca would get me whatever I wanted to a point. To a point. She would not. It's still nothing like the American kids. But Tzia Franca was the weak spot. I think at Tzia Franca I convinced her one time to get me the basket. And I realized the baskets really were garbage. Waste of money, but I had to try. So that's where I was getting with this whole thing, where I went over throughout the entire history, was my parents would make me write a Christmas list. I really did. Every Christmas, I'd write a Christmas list. You know those giant Finger Hut bag magazines that would come, or the giant Sears magazine, the giant J.C. Penney, when Toys R Us sent those giant magazines to your house. I sat there with the catalogs. I was like, Ma, I'm making a Christmas list. I'd circle things in the... I couldn't really... Well, I did write them. I'd write the product number, because everything... There was no online. You had to order through the order form, whatever the hell it was. So I would have to write the style and the product number. I made a whole list. Not once did anything on this list show up. Not once. I'm convinced that my parents made me make this list just to keep me busy and quiet for 10 minutes. Because the list didn't do anything. I didn't get anything from that list. I still remember a shirt. It was a green shirt. It had like Surf's Up written on it. Because that's what these magazines had. They had stupid shirts that said stuff on them. I still like stupid shirts that say stuff on them. My whole merch store, hey, check it out. RockoTheComic.com. Check out the shirts. Has shirts with stupid sayings on them. You know, my birthday. Think about it now. Growing up, what'd you get for your birthday? Say it out loud. What's something you remember getting for your birthday growing up? My wife would get gifts, right? Kids would get gifts. They would have a party, right? They'd have a party. There was other kids at the party. It's like you had kids at your house. You got gifts. Number one, my gift every year for my birthday was the cake. That was my gift. I would ask my mom, what'd you get me for my birthday? Oh, the cake. You get to pick the cake. And every year was the same strawberry shortcake cake from Villa Botta. Every year, the same exact cake. The one with the vanilla icing. No, not even icing. Whipped cream. The strawberries. Inside was strawberries in the yellow cake. Every year. That was my gift. I didn't get presents on my birthday. And a party. Party. What party did I have growing up? My party was just the family coming over. That was my party. I have a video of my first birthday in a tiny apartment on 76th Street and 20th Avenue, where there's about 40 people sitting at a table where nobody can get up once they sat down. I don't know how they all got in. I had no idea how they all got out. But that was my party. My party was a room full of old Italian people. No kids. No playing. It was just mangiamo. That's it. One time, here's the thing. I won't. One time I did have a party at a place, right? It was this place called Bobby's World or something. It was my 8th birthday. And it was at this place, Bobby's World. I don't know. I don't even remember where it was. And we had a birthday party there. I was like, wow, I had a real American birthday party. I got to invite kids from my class. You know, I got to, play games, right? It was not no one was arguing. No one was playing Scoop or Briscola. We were playing games. The only reason I had the party there was because my cousin worked there. That's the only reason. My cousin worked there, so I had the birthday there. That was the only reason. Only party ever in my life that I had. I thought this was no. I thought that's how everyone grew up. But no. My wife's the princess. These people live lavish and like this lifestyle, and I'm there with the strawberry shortcake cake every birthday. The last point I'm gonna make. I'm bothered by this one, okay? I'm bothered by this one. I thought that we all did our communions, right? And like I mentioned, husky, right? A panza c'era. I was nice and husky. My mother told me fat kids were not allowed to wear white for the communion. If you were fat, you weren't allowed to wear a white suit on your communion. The fat kids had to wear blue suits. You hear me? Fat kids were not allowed to wear white suits for the communion. As if the priest sat the parents down and said, "Bless you, my children. But if you're feeding Rocco too much, he cannot wear a white suit, okay? We don't want no marshmallows at the communion." So at my communion, I think I was the only kid in a blue suit. Everyone else had these pristine, pure white suits. And there's Rocco, wearing a navy blue suit. Do you know when I found out that wasn't a rule? And I wish I was joking. I found out that wasn't a thing when I was buying my son's communion suit. Okay? I was buying his suit. We're figuring out what he was asked to wear, all that stuff. And I said, and I'm there and I just say it because I think it's fact. I think it's true. I say, they say the fat kids, if you're fat, you can't wear a white suit. And everyone looks at me like, what? I'm like, no, the communion. If you're getting communion and you're fat, you have to pick a navy suit. You can't pick the white suit. They don't let the fat kid. It's not a rule. It's not a rule. You could wear white if you were fat. You could wear white if you were fat. I could have worn a white suit. But I know why my parents did it. Because I wore that communion suit for every family party for a year and a half after that. My parents knew that they didn't want to waste money on a suit I was only going to wear once. So they concocted a rule. And they could have just told me, look, you're going to wear the blue suit. We want you to wear the blue suit because it's better. No, they had to hit me where it hurts, a panza, to guilt me. Look, you eat too much of pasta, we cannot put you the white suit. Normal. I grew up thinking this is all normal. And bubble burst. Not normal. God bless everybody, We're all special. in our own special ways. This is Rocco the Comic, the Ball Podcast. I'll see you next week. Go to roccothecomic.com for all your Rocco the Comic needs. I'll talk to you soon. State buono. Wear whatever suit you want. Stop looking at yourself in the camera. Gotta look at yourself there. Not there. Gotta look there. Look there. Not there. Look there. Looking at you. Not looking at you. Looking at you. Looking at you. You'll like me? Oh, se brute. Look at that face. Jesus, we're waiting for the fire to stop because we cannot do the podcast. Said the fire make a noise. E sentami Rocco, attaccare capite because the more the hair get long, the less the hair look like you have. I don't understand how it's possible that your hair get long and you look like you got less. It don't make any sense. Okay, test 1, 2, 3, 4. I knock at the door. Podcast. Okay, we're gonna have the podcast today because I want to have a podcast. I want to talk about the balls. The balls you gotta touch every day after you go out of the shower. You gotta touch the balls and check and say you got the lump. Say you got the lump, you gotta go to the doctor. And he gotta check why you got the lump on the balls. Okay. Alright, let's see how that sounds.